Hello, my name is Lana. Welcome to my YouTube channel. And today's video is going to be a book review of Mythos by Stephen Fry. Before I jump into the book review, which will be a fairly substantial book review, but I'm going to do a little bit of housekeeping. If you are really into book reviews, this is the channel for you, because for the next several weeks, that will be all I will be. That will be everything. That's all I will be posting on my channel, because I just have a backlog of book reviews to post. After Mythos, I've got Swan's Way, Dracula, The Hobbit, The Idiot by Elif Batuman, Don't Tell Alfred by Nancy Mitford, and To the Lighthouse by Virginia Woolf. And even by that point, by the time I finish, reviewing those, there's going to be a whole nother slew of books that need to be reviewed. So I have been on a pretty good pace when it comes to my reading this year. I have been doing a lot better putting the phone away. There's no doom scrolling for me this year. Okay, that 2021 was the year of doom scrolling on the internet, and I'm like, I'm not doing that. It's an epic waste of time. So I put the phone away when I'm reading for the most part. And also, because I've been putting the phone away when I've been reading, I no longer have as much of an urge to reach for the phone. Because what are you really missing out on? Absolutely nothing. Yeah, book reviews are your thing. You're in for a lot of book reviews. Also, I have a very exciting arc coming. If you don't know what an arc is, because I know not everybody is. I'm not a person that's great with acronyms, so I prefer people to always define acronyms, just in case you can't assume that people know what you're talking about. An arc is an advanced reader's copy. I have a very exciting arc coming. I did not think I was going to get my hands on this arc, because this is a top release of 2022, and I want it, and I'm super excited. If you try to guess, I will neither confirm or deny, but I will definitely be reading that in the month of April to get my review out at the latest, the day that the book is released for the to consumers. So like I said, lots of book reviews coming. And I will say, BookTube has been heading in the direction of, if you really want to get clicks and you really want to get that viewership up and that subscriber count up, it seems like people are heading towards book vlogging, either doing read with me vlogs or travel vlogs. And I like good old fashioned YouTube. Do I like a good vlog every now and then? Yes. But for me, I like good old fashioned YouTube where the person's sitting down and talking about the thing, and that's it. Granted, okay, it's not algorithm friendly, but it is what it is. So, that's not to say I'm not going to try to experiment with the vlog maybe in the future, but it's not going to be regular content on this channel, because your girl works 40 plus hours a week. I dance 2 to 4 times a week. I still have to maintain myself, eating, cleaning, cooking, all that stuff. So I don't sit around and read all day. Would be nice, but I don't. This is also a channel where you're not going to expect me, weird grammar. I'm not one of those people where at the end of a year or at the beginning of a new year, my reading wrap-ups are not going to be, I read 100 books this year. Never. I read 70 books this year. Nope. That would be great. I wish I could get through that many books a year, but I don't. I can't. That is impossible for me to do with that would mean I'm reading all the time. I can't do that. And I don't rely heavily on audiobooks. I may get through an audiobook a month, if that. I prefer a tangible book that I can smell and write in. But yeah, this is not a channel where I'm going through 100 books a year. This is not a channel where I'm always keeping up to date with the newest releases and long lists and short lists, which is great. If that's what people want to do, I watch those videos because it's always nice. I do like to kind of keep up to date with some of what's being newly released, but it's just impossible to keep up with everything. And I don't keep up with the Joneses. I really don't care what the Joneses are doing. Alana does what Alana wants to do. This is sassy. I'm getting sassy today. I'm going to stop rambling and I'm going to jump into this review. I just decided to do that just to kind of put that out there, what you can expect with this channel. Again, lots of book reviews coming. I don't keep up with the Joneses, and this is not a vlog channel, so onward. All right, I'm 5 minutes in. Let's get going, because I also sit down and film record several videos in one sitting so that I'm not spending all my weekends every Saturday or every other Saturday recording videos, because I have other things I don't want to do. And sometimes I don't want to do anything. Sitting down and staring at a wall and doing nothing is healthy every now and then. Again, the sass. So yeah, I'm going to be filming 2 more book reviews after this, and then I am set for the next 3 weeks, and then I won't be filming again until the end of April. The spiciness is off the Richter scale. Let's get the book. Mythos by Stephen Fry. I have always been fascinated by Greek mythology, not just Greek mythology, but ancient Rome and ancient Greece. And when I was in undergrad, I spent quite a few credit hours. I spent several credit hours actually taking ancient Greek and ancient Roman history courses. And so it's one of those areas within literature, reading the ancient texts, reading mythology, reading retellings of mythology, whether they be something like this, that he's just retelling the myths, versus you have novels like, say, Circe and I'm not even gonna, the way they pronounce this book is evading me, but Ariadne? That was not appropriate pronunciations, but then you have this type of format, which is really popular these days, where you have these novels retelling lesser known characters within ancient mythology, but it's just a topic in an area within literature that I always want to explore. I want to continue to read the ancient texts themselves, the source material. I'm excited to dive into this because this is an excellently told, it's not a novel. This is excellently told Greek mythology. Stephen Fry makes approaching Greek mythology for the newbie or for the seasoned person who is very familiar with these myths. He just makes it enjoyable. Mythos by Stephen Fry is a comprehensive and very entertaining retelling of ancient Greek myths. Stephen Fry manages to retell these myths in a modern style. However, he's not diluting them. It's not like picking up something that's told with a modern voice and it sounds like this person has a political agenda. You know what I mean? Sometimes you pick up a lot of these modern novels or contemporary novels these days, and it's just like they're just hitting the narrative. They're hitting all this political identity and stuff like that. And I just want to read a book without having somebody preach to me. Dang, that's what I want. You know what I mean? That's why I actually have a hard time with modern novels, because I feel like somebody is preaching to me. And I'm like, don't preach to me. This is not church, okay? When I want to go to church, I go to church. But I don't need to know. Like, you feel like you're reading something and it's like you're reading an agenda. This is not what this is. But he tells them in a way that's just approachable, and he does a really good job organizing these myths in a way that seems chronological so that it's easy to follow. There's a lot of characters in this book. I mean, there are so many ancient Greek and ancient mythological Greek characters, gods and goddesses, that they can be hard to keep track of. He makes it very organized. And so if you're a newbie and you want to get into Greek mythology, this is a really good place to start. If you are more seasoned with the ancient Greeks and you just want something that is entertaining and insightful, this is a good one. What I like about what Fry does with mythos, as some people say, depending on your dialect, he breaks down how much ancient Greek, and in some cases ancient Roman, is used in our everyday lives. So when he does pull from modern examples, he's doing it in a way to make it relatable to the reader from a modern context. He particularly explains the origins of many of our words. And so if you are a linguistics person and you like studying language and you like having conversations about language and the origins of language and dialects, I think you'll appreciate this. I'm probably going to mess up some of these Greek words, but bear with me. I mean, I took a lot of ancient Greek classics, but taking ancient Greek as a language was not one of them, nor did I take Latin. I had the option, but I was like, no. First came apate, deceit, whom the Romans called fraud, for whom we derive the words fraud, fraudulent, and fraudster. Also, there is an excerpt out of one of the mythological stories that explains the origins of medicine. And here's a quote here. Enraged, Apollo asked his sister Artemis to take revenge. Only too willingly, she attacked the palace with plague arrows, poisoned darts that spread a terrible disease throughout the compound. Many besides Cronus were infected. Let's rewind. Cronus sounds a whole lot like you know what. I love little stuff like that when you're like, oh, wow, that word looks familiar, getting triggered over here. Also, side note, a word that's used too much, triggered. Stop saying you're triggered when you're not triggered. Stop it. This is a bit of a all over the place book review. It's because this is just several chapters going through different characters and where they come from, their origin. And by characters, I mean ancient Greek gods, goddesses, and mythological characters. But so it's not like going over a novel in which there's a beginning, a middle, and an end, right? It's just, there's several little stories within this one book. And so it would take me all day to recap everything that's in this book and going through each character. I'm not going to do that. But so I'm really just kind of going over what I found most interesting in this text and why I think that if you're interested, you should pick it up. So we stopped at Cronus. What I found particularly interesting about these myths is how much they mirror biblical stories. And one could potentially argue that these myths are coming from another perspective. I'm going to break that down in a minute. I think theologians and historians especially would have a field day with this. And not just mythos, but just mythology in particular, because there are so many parallels. And if you like playing like that and you like to dive deeper and ask questions, this is something that you can really play with. So let's kind of get into what I'm talking about here, because I'm being a bit cryptic. Here are some of the parallels that I drew. One could claim that Zeus and Lucifer are actually the same being. Lucifer fell from heaven like lightning in the Bible after being kicked out of heaven by God, and thus earth became his dominion. In the Greek myth, Zeus won his battle against the Titans and assumed overall command as supreme leader and emperor, lord of the firmament, master of weather and storms, king of the gods, sky father, cloud gatherer, thunder and lightning were his command. So it's almost as if one could argue that it's like we're getting Lucifer's perspective in a sense. Like if he hadn't been kicked out of heaven, it's almost like somebody who's creating some type of story in which they are the winner, they are the hero, they're the one who has triumphed. So I think that's really, really interesting to kind of play around with that idea. There is also, when it comes to the creation of man in this story, so there is a creation of man and how humans came to populate the earth according to Greek myth. And there's a lot of similarities between that and the book of Genesis. So Prometheus made man out of clay. Zeus breathed an essence into them. And Athena, who was, I believe that was, if I remember correctly, that was Zeus's favorite daughter. Let me backtrack. So Prometheus made them out of clay, and we know that God formed Adam out of dirt. Then Zeus breathed into the clay figure, and then there was some essence from Athena that was contributed to these clay statues, and then that's how you get man. There is a trinity going on here. And we know in the Bible we have Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, but here we have Prometheus, Zeus, and Athena. There is, if you go through Genesis, it will say that God did breathe essence into man, which is what, gave clay flesh, right? That's also a parallel there between Jesus, but I could go all day with this, right? But there's a lot to kind of ponder and to think about here. There is a flood story. And Fry actually has a footnote about how historians have actually been able to prove that there was a massive flood that did occur, and that the flood story, the flood myth that takes place here, lines up with the story of Noah. We get a story about wine turning into better wine. We know in the Bible that Jesus turned water into wine at a wedding, and that was the display of his first miracle. And there's even a story of an elderly couple being given the opportunity to flee from their hometown because it was just beyond saving. And that's very similar to the story of Lot and his wife before Sodom and Gomorrah got burned. You know what I'm saying? Because they were just acting a whole and total fool out there in these streets. And God was like, I gotta get rid of it. I gotta go. I gotta get rid of it. They're doing too much. I think that is very interesting. And some people would be like, why are you even going in that deep? It's not that deep. I think it's fun. I mean, when I notice parallels, I shout them out, right? So what was even more interesting to me was how the book of Enoch lines up with Greek mythology. So if you don't know what the book of Enoch is, the book of Enoch has been taken out of most Bibles, but it is still included in some. I think the King James Version 1611. I don't know if I have that year right, but there's a King James Version that still has Enoch in it, as far as some other works that were taken out of the biblical canon. This book in particular, Enoch, talked about creatures called the Nephilim. And these are half demon, half human hybrids. The angels that were kicked out of heaven with Lucifer / Satan found humans attractive and procreated with them. There were so many I am all over the place. There were so many hybrids running around rampant and polluting the human bloodline. That's why God sent the flood to rid the earth of these crazy creatures. But because Noah had a pure bloodline, that's why Noah and his family were saved. And that's why he told Noah to build the ark. So God was like, yeah, I'm going to flood it because it's just, these junks look crazy, right? That's not what I had in mind. What are you doing? So let me just take care of this real quick. And so that's why we have the flood. So many of the Greek gods had tangs going on with the humans. Like Marvin Gaye said, you got a tang going on. Or was it Al Green? Not even. I'm thinking about me and Mrs. Jones. So there are so many human god, Greek god hybrids going on. And there's even a hybrid called the Nephile. That I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. It's spelled Nephle. Centaurs are really the common creature that we think of when we think of half human, half creature hybrids. You know, it's got the body of a horse, but the torso is that, or, you know, the upper body is that of a man. The mermaid, one could argue the vampire. And so these creatures are really representing this union of divine, spiritual, or animalic beings and human beings. And so Fry writes, the unnameable and savage progeny of this unnatural union between man and horse were named after him, centaurs. So many theology lesson aside, why read the ancient Greeks? I know this is kind of random and all over the place, and like we kind of went to the left here, but that's just kind of what I picked up on when I was reading. I found it very, very fascinating. Why read the ancient myths? I get that question a lot. Why are you reading Greek mythology? I think because at the end of the day, all of the theology aside, because either you're going to be into that or not, all of the parallels aside, if you care about that or not, I think that these stories really ultimately reveal a lot about human nature. And how human nature currently or in ancient times perceived the divine. Why do so many civilizations and cultures have similar stories during time periods in which these civilizations were not coming into contact with each other. If you explore Norse mythology, if you explore Celtic/Celtic mythology, and so on, if you look at Native American spiritual stories, there are so many similarities, and you're like, there is a common thread here. I think that's fascinating. What's happening? So yeah, that's always a question that I have in my mind when I'm reading mythology. Also, aside from ancient societies using myth to describe ways that things come into existence or explain certain things within nature or human elements or whatever the case may be, I think that just as humans, I know that we constantly have this desire to try to explain the world around us and why it is that it is. And I think whether we have a faith or religion we believe in or not, when things in the world are just a dumpster fire, or not even if it's just crazy times or scary times, when we come across things in the world that we cannot explain through tangible means, we tend to dig deeper and embrace more spiritual things, and we look past science because science cannot explain everything. I think that we all have, or at least the majority of people, I think that the majority of people have this yearning within us to lean on something greater than ourselves in good times, in trying times, especially in trying times, because it's just like nothing around me makes sense. There's got to be something bigger I can lean on. And so that's why we see people turning to faith, especially in trying times, because people think all of the systems around me are failing. No one can give me an answer. I need hope. You turn on the news, there's no hope. They're telling you the world's going to hell in a handbasket, and so you have to lean on something. The soul has to lean on something if you believe we have souls. I do, right? I know, right? So I'm not even going to get into that, but there's something that there's a yearning, and that's why some people use science as a god. I think that I'm little g god. People put their faith in something, even if it's not a religion or a faith, in the more theological religious type sense of things. Whether you're relying on the government, why you are putting your faith in science, whether you're putting faith in money, whatever it is, whatever you put your trust in, that's what you're putting your faith in. That's just what I believe. Because that's just how we're wired. We are wired to look up to something, whether you have a faith or not, or religion or not. This is turning into something else, a book review / what goes on in my brain. So I think it's important to read mythology, because there's a lot of common threads between this and other texts if you're willing to dig a little deeper. But also it just goes to show human nature doesn't really change. I mean, these are some gnarly stories. They are hysterical. It's like one massive soap opera. I mean, human nature has not changed in thousands of years, and I'm not expecting it to in the future. But again, whether, they're Greek or Norse or Celtic or Celtic, I just find them funny and entertaining and insightful. And man, humans are weird. But also Mythos, let's go back to Mythos. Mythos is just intelligent. This is an intelligent piece of Greek retellings. It's not a novel. What do you call this? It's fiction, but what do you call this? It's not a novel. It's short stories. Not really. This is just intelligently done. So I think Stephen Fry did a really good job. I accompanied this with the audiobook because Stephen Fry narrates it himself, and it's like listening to your grandfather tell you a bedtime story, and it's amazing. I loved it. It was great. Even if you don't want to get into all of the parallels and you want to think deeply about souls and spirituality, it's just good fun because it's a wild ride. And again, these ancient mythological characters get up to some tangs. Okay, they're wild, and it's Jersey Shore up in here. Jersey Shore. I do think that this is a really, really great place to start if you want to get into Greek mythology, but you don't know where to start, because he makes it uncomplicated. he lays it out in a way that makes sense. He also has some family trees up in here so you can see who's coming from who. And he also tells it in a way that's not convoluted. I will say what I think would be an excellent companion read to this. Please hold. He does shout my girl out. The Greek Way by Edith Hamilton, because she's not really focusing on mythology. She's focusing on ancient texts and how to read the ancient Greeks and why they read the way they do. So she's talking about the ancient Greek poems/poets. She's talking about Homer and the style of their writing and why they wrote the way they did, what the ancient Greeks believed, and how that's evident in their literature, and how they really paved the way for Western society as we know it today. Excellent companion reads. This was one of my top. I dropped that. This was one of my top reads of 2021. I almost forgot what year it was, and I annotated. Not a thick volume, but it's packed with information. It took me 2 months to get through these 200 and something pages. It's annotated to oblivion. I think that this and please hold. Look at this. I'm a mess today. Oh, these two together will pave the way for you to kind of have a roadmap of where to go from here. She's giving you the ancient Greeks themselves, so you can dive into some of their works and say, this play appeals to me, Homer appeals to me, now I know where to start. I look crazy. I washed my hair and straightened it last night, so my hair is wispy. It's wispy. And then he's giving you a really good framework for the ancient myths of the Greeks. So that was a bit of a ramble. I felt as if I was a little bit all over the place for that review because was it a review? I don't know. I guess maybe this was more of my thoughts than a book review. I think, as I said, I did say it was really well done. It's well written. It's humorous, especially if you're listening to Fry's audiobook that he narrates of his work. It's just a joy to listen to / read. And of course, because I had the hard copy, when I would hear something via audiobook that I wanted to annotate, I would pick up the book and mark that in the hard copy. But again, I kind of went into how Mythos, what it made me think about in other areas of other ancient texts, the Bible, and just asked some interesting questions about human nature and how we perceive the divine, I think. Please let me know if this review even made sense. Have you read Mythos? Are you into Greek mythology? Are you fascinated by the ancient Greeks? Have you read this book? I highly recommend it. It's just good fun. Like I said, if you don't want to get into some of the things I talked about, you don't need to. It's just good fun. It's like a giant soap opera. I do plan to read Heroes in Troy this year. They're right here. And I think somebody told me he might be releasing a fourth one soon, all strictly focusing on Odysseus, my boy Odysseus. So if he does that, I'm hopping on it. So yeah, I'm going to stop talking because this was all over the place. Those are just some of my thoughts. Again, it's not a novel with a beginning, a middle, and an end, so I can't really do a traditional book review the way I normally would. But yeah, I'm going to sign off. All of my links are down below. I will also link my review that I've written for this book down below as well. That's on my blog. Please follow me on Instagram if you would like. Please like and subscribe. And I will see you guys in the next one. Wait a minute. I gave this book a 4 out of 5. I'm all over the place. Yes, I gave this book a 4 out of 5. And with that, I will see you guys in the next one. This was a hot mess. Bye.